What's up? Welcome into this Thursday edition of Pushing the Pile, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Jam-packed show for you guys today. We got full championship round preview. We're going through the matchups that we believe are going to decide those games. We should do that on the 1 p.m. show on CBS Sports Network.
Yep.
If you guys haven't, check that out, but it's not going to be this week. We do it on Mondays, Thursdays. Next week, we'll be doing it. But going through those matchups, going through some bold predictions, some locks for the championship round. But we're starting with the first off the ball segment where we had a flurry of coaching news and GM news yesterday. We'll start with Aaron Glenn, though. The DC for the Detroit Lions now hired as the head coach of the New York Jets. This one, like the tea leaves on this one, were about as strong as Mike Vrabel to the Pats, right? The connections here. Leger was calling for it months ago.
Oh, he's a happy man.
And it feels great if you're a New York Jets fan. This felt like the top candidate for you for a number of reasons. What was your initial reaction to hearing this news?
Well, first and foremost, it's good for all players that want to become coaches, because what we're starting to see is that shift. And I don't know, and it's been around forever, players being coaches. I mean, George Halas was the owner, player, and head coach. But to get a guy like Aaron Glenn back in the building in New York is great. When you're trying to reset the culture, when you're trying to right the ship, after Robert Saleh was fired and things fell apart this year, you want somebody that's been there and done it at the highest level. It bodes well for all players that want to be coaches, though. It's an exciting time for New York Jets fans. I know Leger Douzable is really excited about it, as you alluded to it.
Yeah, Aaron Glenn was a 12th overall pick in the New York Jets back in 1994 before he became the 3rd overall pick in the expansion draft of the Houston Texans. That's actually how he left the New York Jets in the first place. So reunited now. And I think, I mean, you just look at how the Lions defense played down the stretch when they had, nobody. They had, all their stars were out. You look at how those backups played in that Week 18 game against Minnesota Vikings. And I mean, even against the Commanders, like they were still playing hard. Like you had a team that was playing together and hard. They just were obviously well outmatched from a talent perspective. You can't say that about what the Jets did down the stretch. Now, obviously, a lot easier to play hard when you have the number 1 seed on the line versus nothing on the line, the way the New York Jets did. But even in years prior when nothing was on the line, I think Aaron Glenn has gotten the most out of his team. And this Jets roster is a little different animal than the Lions roster was. And now they have some guys hitting free agency, some key pieces, whether it's DJ Reed, which I think is the biggest one, the cornerback that I think they have to resign, and I'm guessing they will. I'm guessing Aaron Glenn's going to watch the tape and be like, this is the first guy we're resigning here. Because he is, I mean, he was every bit as good, if not better, than Sauce Gardner was this past season. The guy was fantastic in man coverage on the outside. Some lesser pieces, Hassan Reddick, Javon Kinlaw, Solomon Thomas, not necessarily nearly as impactful. So this is going to be a defense that's loaded for him. It's more just now, what do they do on the offensive side of the ball? Because that's the biggest actual questions heading into this offseason. It's Aaron Rodgers, it's Devontae Adams, and it's the OC, because they need to hit that one out the ballpark. And honestly, their best bet at this point, if they really want to contend next year, is get an OC that pairs well with Aaron Rodgers and just running it back on that side of football, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, as this season has gone on, there were doubts early on about Aaron Rodgers' return from injury. Were we ever going to see the same guy? And, as the season went on, you, me, Matt Ryan, we talked about the fact that some of these guys take a while to come back, sometimes over a calendar year, to be able to return from a serious injury. Now you add into the equation that Aaron Rodgers is so old. But at the end of the season, we saw an Aaron Rodgers that was more than serviceable at the NFL level, at a starter level of playing quarterback. So moving forward, they do have a guy who could serve as a bridge until they figure out what they're going to do down the road. But to your point, need to match Aaron Rodgers with a coordinator that's of this decade, of this century. There's so many cutting-edge changes happening on the offensive side of the ball. And to pair Aaron Rodgers with someone that would not only suggest but demand that they do things in the modern era that can give you tells and make leverage easier, that's what they need to do.
100%. All right, so we'll see how that goes for the New York Jets. But now the team that was the talk of yesterday, because this was the height of absurdity. Trent Baalke, Jacksonville Jaguars, out as GM 3 weeks now after the season ended. And after their top candidates in Ben Johnson, who obviously goes to the Chicago Bears, and Liam Cohen, who's re-signed a big deal with the Tampa Bay Bucks to reaffirm his status there as offensive coordinator, both said thanks, but no thanks to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and both pointed to the organizational structure.
Yeah.
Basically just saying, we can't say that it was Trent Baalke because that would be gauche, but it's Trent Baalke. He is the reason why we're not going there to be head coaches. And so obviously this is the correct move. You know, I've lamented Trent Baalke on, ever since the offseason, when I put him as the worst offseason of any team in the NFL last year. I've lamented it. And there was it just was absolutely organizational malpractice to let the last 2 weeks of what happened to this team happen.
They missed the boat, man. And I've been part of some teams that have missed the boat on some great things before. And, you know, I think about missing the boat on Patrick Mahomes in Chicago, and, you know, the trickle down that has had. You know, the universe has changed as a result of him getting paired with Andy Reid. Well, you get an opportunity to pair your football team, your quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, with a guy like Ben Johnson. You do whatever it takes to be able to clear the runway for that big old jet to land and make it happen. And obviously, Shad Khan didn't make that happen in time. Ben Johnson, Liam Cohen, Aaron Glenn, all these coaches have come and gone in the coaching carousel, and the Jaguars missed the boat on all of them. And, you know, I don't know if Jaguars fans exist except for my buddy Asher Grodman. But Asher is just 3 weeks ago, I had him do a pitch on Tops for Ben Johnson to get the job in Jacksonville. And essentially he was like, unfortunately, we got to make a move on Trent Baalke because that's the only way that we can have the runway. Shad Khan didn't do it in time. So, yeah, you said we're in the right place now with Trent Baalke out, but it's the wrong time. The timing was atrocious. You missed the boat on some potential great head coaches as a result of that organizational structure.
Yeah, Trent Baalke, to give some context, his draft history, top 100 picks. He got there in 2020. Now, he was only director of player personnel in 2020, then took over as interim GM the past 3 years. Top 100 picks. Started with just an absolute bang. The 2020 draft was one of the worst drafts I've ever seen from a team. They went C.J. Henderson, Caleb Chason in the first round. Two of like the hardest busts of that entire draft. Laviska Shenault, round 2. Devon Hamilton, round 3. Next year, Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, Tyson Campbell, Walker Little, Andre Sisco. That's far and away their best draft. But even still, you spent a first-round pick on a running back who's not your backup. 2022, Trayvon Walker, obviously drafted him over Aiden Hutchinson, one of just malpractice at the top of the draft, in my opinion. And you're seeing it play out over the last 3 years, how good Aiden's been, how bad Trayvon Walker, not bad, but just like how average Trayvon Walker's been for number one overall pick.
Well, relative to Aiden, it's even more extreme.
Devin Lloyd, Luke Fortner, Chad Muma. Devin Lloyd, the only one starting on that roster currently. 2023, Anton Harrison, your first round offensive lineman. Brenton Strange, backup tight end in the second round. Tank Bigsby in the third round. Bigsby, a solid pick. But again, you drafted backup running backs and tight ends in rounds 2 and 3 when you have not a good roster. This year, Brian Thomas, obviously the biggest hit there. Mason Smith, Jarian Jones. It wasn't good. It just objectively, for where they were drafting consistently, to whiff on top picks the way they did and to whiff on free agents the way they did, whether it was Gabe Davis, whether it was Eric Armstead this past year, whether it was Darnell Savage, like those guys did nothing for your roster, unfortunately. It was just long overdue. It was long overdue. So we'll see. I still think the Jags is a good job now in terms of head coach,
Matt Nagy.
But we'll see if anyone wants to go to an organization that's that out of touch, unfortunately. And it kills me because the Cons, Tony went to my high school. I know Tony really well. He's a good dude. He wants the Jags to succeed. Like, they want to put money into this team. Like, it's not like a cheap owner. You know, it's not like one of those where they're penny pinching. They want to. They've just, Tony's got other stuff going on, man. He's got what's the wrestling
soccer
network?
Team? Does he have a soccer team?
He's got a soccer team.
Yeah,
he's got a full wrestling network that he's in charge of. Not a big wrestling guy, so
there's a lot going on there.
Forgive me, but
I was thinking about this last night. What was I saying? What has cost? I was watching something. Oh, I was playing this game called Marvel Rivals, and it's a video game. And I know you're an OG video gamer, but you had to stop because you loved it too much.
I did.
But there's a new game called Marvel Rivals, and you can pick from like the Hulk, Wolverine, Iron Man, all these different characters. You play against one another. And I was thinking about the costumes, and this is a complete, out of left field conversation here, but people that watch wrestling, I think there's a Venn diagram with people that enjoy Marvel movies, like something about grown-ups in costumes. I don't know.
Well,
I was laying in bed last night, like doing the Venn diagram of people that watch wrestling and people that enjoy Marvel movies.
It's adult hero narratives. I mean, it's adults rom-coms, right?
It's like the NFL a little bit too, right? I mean,
yes, there is a lot of crossover, and I think it's because of that. It's like people want,
and then Disney adults. Yeah, to quote Seinfeld, you're rooting for the clothes. That's actually good. That's good. This next one, though, I really like. This next headline is amazing.
Raiders hired Tampa Bay assistant GM John Spytek, and obviously the jokes being
Spytek?
Tom Brady hiring a guy named Spytek. But if you look at how the Bucs have been run, and
is that his government name?
I think it is. Spytek. Okay. I couldn't tell you the etymology of that, where it comes from, but
MI6.
I can tell you that the Bucs have been one of the best run front offices over the past. The Jason Light era. Not only just getting Brady, winning a Super Bowl, obviously, but they've retained so much talent. They've been so good at keeping homegrown guys in the building. Guys don't want to leave. Guys take less to stay there. So good at organizational structure and their head coaching, hiring from within, getting the right guy for the right position. And when they knew Byron Leftwich, which wasn't that guy, they identified Liam Cohen as this new star offensive coordinator. And they've just had great success in free agency. Their draft track record's not like world beating. It's not like the Detroit Lions, right? But it's been very good. It's been very solid. That's how you just have this almost no dip after losing Tom Brady and continue to be a playoff team year in, year out. So if you're the Raiders looking for organizational stability, this is like a far cry from last year's hire, right? When they went out and got Tom Telesco, a guy who was just fired from his job with the Los Angeles Chargers. And for good reason, because what he did there over the course of his tenure was not good. This feels more like, hey, we're resetting the culture here, and less like these guys are all going to be gone in a year, the way it did last offseason.
Yeah, with the Raiders, you got to just look at their track record, and it feels like musical chairs as it pertains to the season ending. Sometimes the season not even being over yet, they have a new head coach, they've got new GMs. Champ Kelly is on the list of people that have been in charge of being the general manager. And I was with Champ Kelly in Chicago. He's actually one of the guys that ended up getting me drafted. But I think about all these dudes, Mike Mayock, the list goes on and on and on. They just haven't they haven't been able to get it right. With Tom Brady, you hope that they would have some better direction, some prioritization as it pertains to the roster. Now you're bringing in a real dude in John Spytek, who's been around, to your point, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have built this thing from within in the draft, and they've gotten a lot of things right, including some big-time offensive linemen. Raiders are a few pieces, not too many pieces away from being competitive. Their only downfalls, they got to play in that AFC West.
Yeah, that is difficult and will be for years to come. But I do think this one, from when they hired Gruden and Mayock, they gave them massive long-term deals. You thought, I think that's the correct way to go, right? To give guys the stability to say you have this runway. Now,
go build a building. Yeah.
They gave, in that situation, the head coach far too much leeway. Like Gruden was in charge of their first rounds and just went off the rails with who he ended up drafting. I still go back to that. It's the 2019 draft where they went Cleveland Ferrell, Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Abram in the first round, where it was just like, dude, that was just complete mismanagement of what you're supposed to do. You need, in today's NFL, you need the GM to have control over the draft. You just do. The coaches are too much in the minutia. They're too much in the day-to-day. So I like hiring the GM first. That's the guy who still sets the tone of the roster, who needs to have the long-term vision set. Head coach is the day-to-day, year-to-year, make the most out of what I'm giving. You can't have the head coach have complete control because he's going to make immediate looking decisions, right? If a head coach has complete control, more often than not, they're going to do everything in their power to like get guys who can win for us right now. So they're going to try to fill needs. They're going to try to plug holes. You need the guy who's like, no, we're not going to do that. That's not going to be in our best long-term interest. So I like the strategy here of going GM first over head coach. What are your thoughts on that as an organizational structure?
Well, my experience with the Raiders is that in my 8th season, I went and did a tryout with the Las Vegas Raiders. And mind you, I took a year off to fully recover from my injuries and train and get my body right. And when I tell you I was in great shape and I was healthy and I was ready to play football, I mean it. And you've seen me play ball, so you know exactly what I'm talking about, where I was physically. I went and had a workout with the Las Vegas Raiders. And Tom Cable was the O-line coach. John Gruden was the head coach, and Mike Mayock was the GM at the time. And I thought I knocked my workout out of the park. And I'm not some rookie from Murray State who showed up and called my mom and said I knocked the workout out of the park. Like, I know what they're looking for, and I know what I'm capable of, and I did. And Mike Mayock was like all like ear to ear smiling. He was happy for me. He showed my dad on a visit to Boston College in like 1945.
Wow.
So they've known each other for a very long time, but this wasn't like a favor deal. It was like they needed an alignment and I was available. So I went and took my workout. Gruden overrode Mayock's decision, and Mayock's a scouting guy. Mayock understands what he's looking at. He was like, I thought you had a great workout. My younger brother was actually there working. He's still working with the Raiders, but I went and had a meeting with Gruden upstairs, and he was like, I just want to let you know, we really like this Alex Leatherwood guy. And we're going to go with Alex Leatherwood. And it was clear to me that the GM was John Gruden in that moment. So to hire a GM first now to set the ground rules and prioritize, I think it's the best move going forward. And whether it was me who didn't get signed or, somebody else, and if they missed the boat on something, then, it's like I would still have an issue with the head coach having complete autonomy if their last name isn't Belichick. And even then, we've seen that fuck up. So the Raiders got it right this time with John Spytek hopefully having the reins.
Leatherwood, Bears legend, Alex Leatherwood.
Yeah, and that's what pissed me off even more. He was on the Bears too. I was like, I went into the meeting, and John Gruden, he sat down across from me. He went like this. He was like, "You like football, man?" And I was like, "Yeah, coach." He goes, "I bet you don't like football as much as I do, man." And I was like, "I bet not." And I think my response might have been the reason why he went for Alex Leatherwood. Alex Leatherwood clearly challenged him in that meeting.
We don't have to go too hard on Alex Leatherwood, unfortunately. I'm not sure he's even.
Look, nothing against Alex Leatherwood. Everything against me not loving football as much as John Gruden.
Yeah,
honestly.
Not a lot of people do. All right. The AFC Championship is on CBS. Earlier this year, Buffalo dealt Kansas City their first defeat. Now, in this high-stakes rematch, the Bills are one step away from reaching their destiny. While Mahomes and the Chiefs seek their third consecutive title, Bills, Chiefs, the AFC Championship, it all begins Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern with the NFL Today on CBS and streaming on Paramount+. All right, we got 2 games. We're going to take a break. After that, going to hit them. Let's go. Commanders Eagles, Volume 3. Third time we've seen this story. Sunday, 3 p.m. in Philly. Philly's 6.5-point favorites, over under a high 47.5 points. I'm not sure we've seen that total for Philly in a while, let's just say, with the way their defense has been playing and kind of with the way their offense has been playing. But what matchup? We're going to highlight 2 matchups for each of these games that we're honing in on. What's the biggest one for you in this one?
Well, first and foremost, it's going to be the Eagles front 7 versus that Commanders offensive line. We know that Jaden Daniels is a superhero. All things are possible through Jaden Daniels. But at the end of the day, if you're not slowing these guys down with the front 7 of this Philadelphia Eagles team, Jaden Daniels is going to be asked to do even more heroic things. And while I think he's capable of it, I think it's important to be able to establish a ground game have Jaden keep some of them, run the football with your running backs, effectively control the line of scrimmage. But that's a really tough ask against this Eagles front, and they've been coming on lately. They've been swelling up defensively, particularly up front. I think about the edges, guys like Nolan Smith and then Jalen Carter on the inside driving people crazy. We've got Cosme, got the ACL versus the Lions. And it's just going to be, that's really where the rubber will meet the road for this Commanders team, is against this front. And not only in talent, but the physicality with which the Philadelphia Eagles play and have played for a long time will be, in my opinion, the big matchup in this football game.
Yeah, I mean, the past 2 weeks with the Eagles, their run defense hasn't been amazing. Now, last week you maybe throw out the snow. It's difficult. That makes things tough on the defensive line with your footing being challenged. But against the Packers even, I mean, they gave up over 100 on the ground, almost 5 yards per carry in that game. It was their strength during the course of the regular season, but they are susceptible. The big matchup, though, to me is Sam Cosme. Tore his ACL last week against the Detroit Lions. Thank God the guy signed his contract back in September, because he would have been an impending free agent. So we already got his money. That unfortunately could go into next year now with the timing of it. But he's their best offensive lineman, right guard for the Washington Commanders, far and away their best one. And not only
I like Biotish too a lot.
Biotish is good, but Cosme in the 2 matchups against the Eagles previously, he shut down Jalen Carter. Not like completely shut down, but he handled him. Not a lot of guys can. He only allowed 2 pressures in those 2 games combined. And that's how you were able to pull off that upset, right? Is that you did not allow Jalen Carter in the big moments to take over that football game the way, he did a week ago, right? Like, he's a guy that, may not be given 100% every single snap. He's not a guy that may show up in lesser games, but when the lights turn bright, when they need to have a play, he's the guy that's there. And so now you go from him to Trent Scott, Sam Cosme to Trent Scott. It's like, do I trust Trent Scott to handle Jalen Carter on a 3rd and 8 in crunch time? I just don't, man. Unfortunately, I don't. And so, yes, the Eagles are down guys themselves. No Nakobe Dean, obviously, with his injury suffered against the Packers, but that's nowhere near as impactful as what Cosme could mean. Not having Cosme.
Can the Commanders swell up? And, sometimes you see a frog in the forest on one of these Planet Earth shows, and there's like a snake coming over to eat it. And then the frog suddenly like hulks out for a minute, and you see it gets bigger. It turns red. Like, I need that Commanders front to turn red and get some thorns and get some spikes, because I know how this Eagles team plays. I want to see how this Commanders team responds, or do they punch them in the mouth early? That's going to be a big one. I think the other matchup, Mike, that I'm looking for in this football game is the Commanders' defensive ability to put a cap on that Eagles offense on 1st and 2nd down. Get them into 3rd and 5, get them into 3rd and 6 plus, and find out what that Eagles offense has to offer. Obviously, they can protect Jalen Hurts, but the only real question mark we have, and it's not even really a bold question mark, is that Jalen Hurts and this passing game are not always in sync. So if I'm going to be, putting my money on anything, I would say Saquon Barkley can get it done on 3rd and 2, on 2nd and 2. So get them out of those situations, force this Eagles offense to throw the football around. And also, I'm reading this research packet that they put together at CBS. 4 of the top 5 teams in 4th down conversion percentage this season made the conference championship game. So when we talk about the over in this game, or the line for this game, it makes a lot of sense, because these are teams that aren't out there punting. They're not out there kicking field goals. They're going to try to get their first downs because they're confident in their units. They're confident in their quarterbacks. And in Philadelphia's case, they're very confident in Saquon Barkley.
Yes. And I think it's really shown the success of, the Bills and their ability in short yardage, the Eagles, and everyone knows their ability in short yardage, and the Commanders, how much you just have to have plans for 3rd and 2s, 4th and 2s, 4th and 3s, things of that nature, 4th and 1s, then have to just be money on them. Like, you have to, as an offense coordinator, as an offense in today's NFL, those have to just be like automatic, just no thought, go out there, the plan, go execute. And you just have to have that. in today's NFL, or else you're falling behind, because
Yes,
the Commanders are automatic in those situations. Philly's automatic. Buffalo's automatic. It's just like that.
Kansas City's got a gadget somewhere,
Yes.
and I think Kansas City might be the one that's not top 4. I think they're probably number 5. I'd have to look at this, but the stat is 4 of the top 5 teams in fourth down conversion percentage, and it makes sense. You watch a team with a guy like Jaden Daniels at the quarterback position, you get a +1 blocker in those running situations. You give him options. With Josh Allen, you get to see him out on the edge. You see that quarterback sweep power looking thing where they pull 2 offensive linemen out front. This is a real thing. Jalen Hurts is, squatting 800 pounds. He's looking for contact. These are great matchups and huge downs in these games.
Because the other thing that does is that, say it's a 3rd and 10 or 3rd and 9, 3rd and long. You can run routes short of the sticks. You don't have to. Most defenses have their corners play the sticks, right? They have them play at the sticks. So if you run it 3 yards short of the sticks, you can run those routes, complete those easily, and then give yourself that automatic fourth down.
2.
So it opens things up as a play caller, and then you also open it up to double moves, because if you're running a lot of yards short of the sticks, well, they start to come up and they start to know that. And then they start to creep up. And then
guys start to drive on those footballs.
100%. So this Commanders run defense, though, I am worried about. I'm worried about their offensive line, and I'm also worried about their run defense, because this was the 6th worst run defense in the NFL during the regular season. And last week against Detroit, they gave up 201 yards on 23 carries. We talked about how bad Detroit's defense was in that game, and it was. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But the Commanders were getting rolled up on. And that, even if you take away the 61-yarder from Jamison Williams, that's still 140 yards on 22 carries. Your run defense was still getting shredded. So that's a worry to me. They're not coming into this game, having turned that around. It's just their offense was a house. So
quite frankly, I don't care if the 85 Bears roll out there against this Philadelphia Eagles front on the offensive line. They are going to come into the game with a plan to run the football. They're going to ride that big old ox, Saquon Barkley, and they're going to do it behind Mekhi Becton and Lane Johnson on the backside double team, and it's going to be beautiful. And when Lane Johnson gets the opportunity to stretch a defensive end out by the hash, he's looking to take people for rides, and Saquon has been incredible. So to your point, I mean, the Commanders present some issues. Or the Commanders' defense presents issues for the Commanders, particularly their run defense, but in conjunction with the fact that we're talking about the Philadelphia Eagles, and we're talking about this offensive line, and we're talking about Saquon Barkley, the question marks about their passing game in Philadelphia. We know what they're going to lean on. It's like going to fight Mike Tyson. Can you survive? You know what's coming.
Let's get some picks. I'm going Eagles, and Eagles to cover. And on that over-under 47.5, I think I'm just punting. I want to see an over, but with the Eagles, you never know. What do you got?
I'm going to take the over, and I think the Washington Commanders cover, but I think the Philadelphia Eagles win.
There you go. All right, let's get to the late show. Bills at Chiefs. Chiefs 1.5-point favorites at home. 47.5 points is the over-under, exact same as that Eagles game. What's the matchup you're looking for in this one?
Man, there's a lot of matchups I'm really looking at, but if I was to try to hone in on one outside of, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, it's going to be the Chiefs linebackers and their big time test in figuring out what the hell Josh Allen's doing with the football. Because we know that there are 7-step drops that turn into quarterback runs. We know that there's quarterback runs that turn into pitches. We know that there's anything under the sun that can happen with Joe Brady and Josh Allen at the quarterback position. So for guys like Leo Chenal, Drew Tranquill, Nick Bolton, you have your work cut out for you. And I think the one phenotype, the one body that I think is cut out for this gig of being the eyes on Josh Allen all the time is Leo Chenal. And you and I were texting about this. He's Hercules for that defense. And you hear the way that their team talks about him. There's nothing that Leo can't do physically. And if you're going to put to the test somebody's physical capabilities, go ahead and say, all right, well, you get Josh. So I'm going to be looking at that second level of the defense, and I'm going to be looking at Chris Jones taking on double teams because I know Aaron Cromer. I know what he's about. And he says, you cut the head off and the snake will fall. That's That's essentially what they're going to try to get done against Chris Jones. I think they want 4 hands on him, and they want to force him to play the run all game so that when the opportunity does present itself to rush the passer, he's going to have less than optimal gas in the tank.
Yeah, this is the matchup I'm looking forward to too, because I don't think any team utilizes their running threat at the quarterback position as well as Josh Allen in terms of just like not overusing it, not spamming it, but using it when it's necessary. And we talked about, short yardage efficacy earlier. And that's when they break it out, right? It's like 3rd and 4, they go empty and they'll run power with Josh
They run
Allen.
quarterback crack to the left with, 2 guys coming down, Deion Dawkins pulling around, and then you get the backside guard coming, the center blocks back, and then you got a convoy. And what's behind a convoy? A tank. There's, humans protecting a tank. It doesn't even make sense.
And they do a lot of, we discussed last week, a lot of 6 offensive lineman stuff. Alec Anderson, getting him on the football field. That means, the Kansas City Chiefs are going to combat that with base defense. That means Leo Chenal's out there a lot of snaps, 31 snaps the first time these two teams played. I don't think the Kansas City Chiefs win this game without a big play from Leo Chenal. Now, that doesn't say it's not going to happen, right? Because seemingly every single week he makes one. Every single playoff run, he has been right at the heart of it, even if he doesn't play a full complement of snaps. You saw it last week with the blocked field goal. The guy is a machine, and he's uniquely the one guy that if you're going to spy Josh Allen, and I assume they will, I assume that's going to be part of the plan. He runs a 4.53, man. He's 250 pounds running a 4.53. He can track him down in space the way I don't trust Nick Bolton to. If Nick Bolton gets there, I don't trust him to bring him down in space. And I don't trust Drew Tranquil either. So I think Leo Chenal, you're going to see a lot of him in this game. He's going to be their spy on 3rd downs, or he's going to be rushing on 3rd downs, mush rushing, that he's going to need to have himself a heck of a game to keep this Kansas City Chiefs team in the game.
One way we can determine the machismo of some of these linebackers is their willingness to take on / attack pullers. And more often than not, these pullers are in a different weight class, maybe 2 weight classes above them. When I think about Nick Bolton, I think about a guy who's undersized but squatty, who's willing to take on these blocks. Is he going to win that fight? More often than not, no. But just the threat of knowing that there's a linebacker coming to hit you, that's something. Drew Tranquil is a guy that can get under some of the arms. He's a very athletic guy, and that's a tough ask for pullers, particularly when you're pulling around outside. Guys can duck underneath of you. This guy, Leo Chenal, he's looking for a fight. He can go under you. He can go around you. So, as much as a challenge as this is for the linebackers, for the Chiefs, you got to understand as a puller who your assignment is. And there's 3 different types of guys out there. What are you expecting and how are you going to combat it? That's what I'm looking for.
The obvious matchup, though, in this one, and we'll touch on it a little bit because everyone and their mother is talking about it. Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes, right? It's version 4 of this in the playoffs. The last 3 games we saw in 2020, they lost 38-24, the Bills did. In 2021, they lost 42-36. And then in 2023, they lost last year 27-24. I think every time they match up, you see their best, right? I think you'll see. That's why this is one of my favorites. The over in this one is both quarterbacks come to play. They're not, the
without
defenses
a doubt.
don't win. The defenses don't decide these matchups. This is Allen versus Mahomes, and they are going to be at their best. It's just who's best. It more comes down to me who has the supporting cast that can really elevate at this point. And to me, it's the Bills. I think it's the Bills and that offensive line that can really elevate as opposed to the Chiefs, just because I don't trust the Chiefs tackles, unfortunately, at this point. Even if Joe Tooney, sure, I think he can hold his own, but do we trust Jawan Taylor against Von Miller when Von's playoff on now? I don't know. I think I expect more the Chiefs supporting cast to let down Mahomes than I expect the Bills supporting cast to let down Allen.
That's hey, whoever has the ball last, right? And they changed the damn rules so Josh Allen can have an opportunity to have the ball last. So I'm looking forward to this.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. After that, going to get to our bold predictions and locks for championship round.
Welcome to JJ's.
I'll have a... Wait, there's no way I can get a burger?
No chance. But you can have the NFL on CBS streams live on Paramount+. Oh, hang on. There's a toy.
You know what? Hey, if I see one more JJ Watt commercial, man, you know what? This handsome sucker, get him off.
What year was it where he just got like his agent was working overtime and then he's like, dude, I'm on too much. Like he got the backlash. It was like 2016 or something after he like broke out, was defensive player of the year.
Yeah, like 15, 16.
Captain America.
I probably muted the word Watt on Twitter as an offensive lineman. I couldn't have hated a player more than I hated JJ Watt. Now I work with him and here's the problem. He's like the sweetest guy in the world and the most thoughtful human being ever. And he actually is built like a Marvel character. He's got that V back, and he's he's so nice. Smile, and then I see him on the commercials. I just makes me think about the old JJ, and I just want to slap him around. But I can't.
Wisconsin boys, they're built different. Wisconsin,
they really are. I've never met TJ, but I would imagine I would be like, "Hey TJ, I better not see you on any taco commercials, bro."
All right, let's get to our bold predictions. What do you got for us for championship round?
Bills Chiefs. They're going to go into overtime. Now, my bold prediction doesn't pick a side here, but I just feel like it's in the writing already. It's in the story already. Okay. They changed the rules for overtime. You get Josh Allen. He beat the Kansas City Chiefs in Buffalo this year on the shoulders of a fantastic run to cap the thing off. I got the Chiefs taking their best shot, taking this thing to overtime. I'm looking forward to this one.
I'll pick a side. I got the Bills. I got the Bills in that one.
I got the Chiefs.
I know you do. I know you do. All right, my bold prediction. Jalen Carter will match his regular season sack total in the playoffs. So we had 4.5 in the regular season. He has 2 already in the playoffs. I think that means he gets 2.5 more at least this weekend against the Washington Commanders. Now, obviously, it's difficult to track down Jaden Daniels. Difficult man to sack. But I just think they will be ahead. You'll have a lot of passing, and that'll be one-on-ones against Trent Scott. And I think that's a dub.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this guy do some stuff that just jumps off the film. One thing you forget with Jalen Carter because of the way he's cut, he's built, he's 320 pounds. Yeah. I mean, that is an offensive guard weight. Offensive guards are like dense bowling balls of human beings. The fact that Jalen Carter can change direction, play with extension, understand balance, in conjunction with his understanding of scheme, he's a really, really smart player. And to your point, are we getting the Jalen Carter best effort every time during the regular season? Probably not, but he's a guy that's smart enough to understand that this Eagles team is great. They're going to need his best when his best is needed. This is one of those games. And you said Jaden Daniels tough to bring down. Well, I'll tell you what, Jalen Carter tough to block. So get to know each other, Jalen and Jaden.
All right, let's get to our locks of the week.
Last
week, you took me to the woodshed. You're now ahead of me on the season after what's just been an impressively awful showing for myself in the postseason. I'm not sure I've made any prediction that's come correct this postseason. So hopefully maybe that changes this week, but maybe if you're looking to trail me, I might say fade me at this point. Those were all kind of close bets. I was actually floored that Rams Eagles went over because there was like 5 minutes left in the game. And it needed like 12 more points to go over. Texans not covering hurt as well, but alas, we bounce back. This week, my locks, Bills Chiefs, over 47.5. Josh Allen, over 230.5 passing yards. And then Brian Robinson, under 37.5 passing yards. I just think the Eagles come out strong, shut down the running game early, force a pass-heavy attack, and I don't see that being Brian Robinson.
Man, okay, so I also have Buffalo, Kansas City over 47.5. If you want me to change that, if you want me to do another one,
ride with it. Unless you're scared now with my.
I'm not scared. I'm just confident in something else. Travis Kelce, anytime touchdown. Philadelphia -6.5 against the Commanders. Wait, no. because earlier I said they cover. Let's say Philly minus 6.5, and just forget what I said about the Commanders earlier. James Cook over 54.5 rushing yards. You know, we talked about this game plan, what they've got to get done to limit possessions, and not only that, establish dominance physically. That's going to involve James Cook going over 54.5.
And I also think, I mean, they did a lot of running back by committee during the regular season. Cook's your guy. Like Cook is the one who's different in that regard and what he brings to the table as a runner, and the home run ability.
Look out for that Ray Davis touchdown. It happened last week.
Harry's got Terry McLaurin over 64.5 receiving yards. Quinyon Mitchell going to play, he says, but obviously
Harry Terry.
That shoulder injury last time, he kind of, or was it the first time that Quinyon did shut him down? So we'll see how that one fares. There you have it. That's our show for today. A quick one heading into championship week. I will be back Sunday, leave with John Breach, but then next week I will be at Senior Bowl, Shrine Bowl. May not be on every single show. We may
so you know what that means.
On location shows. That means you and Pete.
It's going to be the kindergarten show. It's me and Pete just going to be matching every day, being some handsome some bucks, just some bald boys.
I'll be tuning in. Cannot
It'll
wait.
be fun.
Thanks for tuning in yourselves. Until next time, keep pushing.